Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, let me say that the budget presented yesterday was a very ambitious budget with very huge financial provisions in the highlighted sectors. I don't want to go into the economics of the budget, but I was wondering how 1,500 naira for $1 will bring down inflation from 34% to 15%. I'll leave that to work out. Let me go straight to where I have concern. Mr. President, my concern is on the infrastructure proposed by Mr. President to be built in 2025. During the budget speech, Mr. President highlighted that Sokoto-Badagry Highway will be built and the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway will be built. I was waiting to hear that the President will build the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri railway line, which is the Eastern Rail Line. You will recall that I brought a motion here for the federal government to build the Eastern Rail Line, and that motion was co-sponsored by 35 senators. It was unanimously resolved that the President should build standard gauge rail from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. All the senators on that corridor co-sponsored that motion. So I was expecting a legacy project, Eastern Rail Line, going from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. But it does appear that it has been overlooked again. Looking at the budget, we have not seen the details now. I've seen the provision on land transportation. What we have there is 223 billion. 223 billion. We have looked at it, and it is obvious with the ongoing projects from Kaduna to Kano, Kano to Maladi, and other rail lines under construction. That Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail line can hardly be there. So I want to draw the attention of the Senate to that. Let's hope that it is in the breakdown as you are hoping, but in the event that it is not there, I would like the Senate to intervene, because the government has just announced free train ride starting from 20th December to 6th of January for the holidays. There's no rail line in that corridor. So I pray that the Senate should consider Senate should consider that project to include it in the 2025 appropriation. Thank you, Mr. President.
In commenting on the 2025 budget, I would like to align myself with our colleagues in thanking President of Federal Republic of Nigeria for considering defense as an important area. If we do not keep ourselves peacefully, I don't see how we can even do anything in Nigeria. In putting defense and security as a top priority, it means we will do a lot to go back to agriculture. But once we go to agriculture, I would like to see where this budget will address some issue and put stimulus into banks like Bank of Agriculture, the Bank of Industry, so that we can put stimulus back to the economy. If there is no much stimulus in the economy, what we are preaching about in shadowing down the dollar or keeping the dollar lower is not going to happen. We must do more on agriculture, where exports production will be key to what we are going to be looking at 2025. And in praising Mr. President of the Republic, we have to pay more attention to the manufacturers. One of my colleagues, just said that, because in the manufacturing sector, capacity utilization is down. There is no stimulus in any sector of this sector. So, Mr. President, I'm appealing to you, President of Senate, to see how you can redirect some issues in this budget that will favor the manufacturers and all the rest of them by supporting Bank of Industry very well and supporting the other developmental banks that are within the region. so that people can go back to manufacturing, people can go back to production. Because without production, we are not going to do much as a country. I also want to use the opportunity to appeal to you, what my colleague said, Senators Abubakar Sani Bello. When you go to our embassies, Mr. President have done very well in the last few months in making new friends for Nigeria and in making Nigeria to be center of world leaders to visit us. But Mr. President, we need to address the issue of our consulates, our embassies, and all the rest of them. They are in a very poor condition. These embassies need rehabilitation, and Mr. President needs to, as a matter of fact, put his representative, like he just went to Brazil. He just went to Brazil. He has nobody to continue what he has done. We need to put the ambassadors and way finance and all the rest of them for them. So, Mr. President, time is all. Senator Abbas has the floor. Thank you very much. I have to back to what you said. Friday, not Sunday. Friday. Friday. By exercise. Thank you, my good friend. Excellency, thank you very much. Guys, also to lend my voice in supporting this bill, and we want to just draw your attention to a few concerns that I have. Although I know we don't have much time on our side, but I want to commend the government for all the drive that it has taken, particularly on the area of security. In my region, as all of us are aware, there have been a lot of insecurity here and there. But today, the question is not the same as it was. And the drive to pacify stakeholders and those vulnerable people has also been a very remarkable one. However, I want to point that that drive also have brought a lot of improvement, particularly on the area of revenue generation. But my people and my area, I always want to emphasize that whatever Nigeria stands to gain today, much of it relies on what the Niger Delta is able to come up with. But as it were, the cry has always been the same. As far as I know, the cry of poverty, insecurity, education deficit, health challenge all over the country is the same. However, we suffer it the most. And I want this budget to address these issues very frontally, Mr. President, very frontally. And in doing that, we will be very happy. So to come away, your time is off. Yes, my friend. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Come on. I support you so well, and I support the bill, and we want to pray that in implementation, because right now, as we stand, as we speak, in the rule of Bayelsa, I cannot point to one particular project, remarkable federal project that is going on, apart from this constituency project. Solar light is not an issue that anybody should be relying or depending on. And I want to draw this budget, draw your attention, the Senate, to this fact that we need. Thank you so much. You have spoken very well. We've had you. Thank you. What you said are noted. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I remain Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu Sarkin Yakin Kefi, the famous horse rider. I I represent Nasarawa West Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is a very, very ambitious budget, unprecedented, Christian restoration, which of course should be commended. For anybody to be successful, the risk bearing of that person must be high. I salute the courage and the risk bearing of Mr. President to have come up with such a budget, which Nigerians had never seen before in numbers like this. Beyond commending the President, or reasons for commending the President, we all know the state of security in Nigeria. My colleagues have spoken on the merits or advantages of the various allocations. Security is the bedrock of every societal development. Without security, nothing can be achieved. So for security to have this high figure of 5 billion naira, which does not mean that that is good enough for security, but at least there is a paradigm shift from where we are coming from, or where we were. Permit me to say that in the aspect of infrastructure has gotten over 4 billion. Without infrastructure, particularly to be specific, electricity, infrastructure is 4 trillion. Sorry. Security, okay, about 5 trillion. Particularly to be specific, electricity. In this day and age, 21st century, without electricity, there is virtually nothing that can be achieved. One of the objectives of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is to make life worth living for the downtrodden. And if we are to go by that, everything possible within humanity should be brought to the table for electricity to be provided in Nigeria.
Your time is up, Senator. We even added 1 minute for you.
My time? Mr. President, my utmost concern or worries is the implementation of the budget.
I agree with you.
The President must put his foot down. And for us here as representatives of the people, we must always be assertive of our authority. For any chief executive of MPA that refuses to respond to calls of the National Assembly should, Mr. President, am I done? Okay, I saw.
Senator Patrick Ndibuye, then Senator Simon Along, and then Senator Asuku Ekweyon. No, Ndibuye has the floor.
No. Mr. President, thank you very much. I will really thank myself. Having thanked Mr. President, my name is Ndubeze Patton of this budget. I want us to draw attention to the fact that the fiscal deficit in this budget is 13.08. And again, servicing of debt is taking us 15.81 trillion. Good. So, the issue of pegging the Naira-dollar ratio to 1,500, and we are talking of it should come, it's supposed to be low. I want us to recognize that for us to improve in our budgetary system and in our execution,
we must improve in our production to help to let the balance of trade. The equation should come to our own side, Nigeria. If not, you cannot get it right. And also, we should allow the market mechanism to determine the naira-dollar ratio. And in so doing, you might find out that if we improve our production, we might at the end have maybe less than 1,005 per dollar this coming year. But it cannot be done if we don't improve in our production. And how do we improve in our production? The production, you need steel. In every aspect of production, you need what? Steel. Now, the vehicular importation in this country is consuming a lot. You need steel. And for you to do that, we have to improve Ajokuta. My friend, I'm not...
Your time is up.
No. I'm not up to 1 minute. I'm timing myself. The
timekeeper say your time is off.
No. Sorry, Mr. President. Give me 1 minute. I'm timing myself. So what I'm saying is this. Ajokuta need to be improved.
Sir Simon Lalo, you have the floor.
And Austin Akovundu, representing the good people of Abia Central Senatorial District. Excellency, I'd like to join my colleagues by commending this ambitious budget, especially in the area of allocation to defense, because virtually every segment of development requires security cover for progress to be made. I'm also happy that even the review, food security has also been brought up as a measure of defense cover, security cover. But however, Your Excellency, I'd like to mention that the problem of the amount of money for debt servicing is still a source of worry to me, because that is approximately 1/3 of the total budget, 15.08 trillion for debt servicing. That is very likely going to put pressure on the available resources for capital and other needs. I would like to draw our attention to that, and also bring the issue of oversight to the front burner, because no matter how beautiful this budget is, will require implementation, and implementation will require stringent and timeous oversight on the part of the legislature. Your Excellency, I think the situation now calls for more money to be generated. Oftentimes I've talked about revenue generation. We should also pay more attention in strengthening the strategy of these agencies.
The time is also Akomodo Austin. We now yield the floor to Secretary Eradua.
Thank you, Excellency.
10% inflation rate is still on the high side. Mr. President, the major problem of the Nigerian economy today is the ratio of the dollar to the naira. And so today we are exchanging the naira for the dollar at 1,700. This rate definitely cannot grow this economy. If you go to any market now, the market woman that sells tomato talks about exchange rate. If you want to go and buy pepper, they talk about exchange rate. If you want to go and buy chicken, they talk about exchange rate. So exchange rate now becomes a standard of transaction, even though we are transacting in naira. And so, Mr. President, I think more effort should be made. 1,500 naira that is expected to be the exchange rate anticipated and encapsulated in this budget certainly is unacceptable. And so, Mr. President, I think again that needs to be looked into. Mr. President, the oil benchmark has been set. We all have seen it in our medium-term framework. I hope sincerely that we try to meet the standard so that we don't run into further deficit. And so finally, Mr. President, foreign exchange inflows. We recall, Mr. President, that in some of our discussions in this chamber, we had said that because of our situation, generally, the insecurity, the exchange rate, all and all, that our investors are not forthcoming. And so I hope that if Mr. President keeps to his word and the budget works properly, we hope that energy provision will be seriously improved and our environment, especially security, improves, and we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel in the present inflow of foreign investment that the government is anticipating. So all in all, Mr. President, I, as usual, would want to support the general principle of this budget, but also remember that in implementation, in the details, certain concerns that are raised here are addressed. I thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
The President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria mentioned, security is key. Of course, we have been allocating funds for the security, but we need to actually achieve it because it is the fulcrum of the rest of the development. Farmers can't go to work, nobody can do anything, even investment will not come as long as this insecurity is not taken care of. Even in the Federal Capital Territory, that's the center of Nigeria, the face of Nigeria, the insecurity is a lot. Even in the elite neighborhoods, people cannot go out at night. You cannot go for a walk without being kidnapped. So it is critical and vital to the survival of the economy of this country that insecurity should be taken care of, and everything else will fall into place. I so submit.
The budget is an estimate and a goodwill from Mr. President that we've seen. We've seen that, yes, all the bills, the motions we've done here over the year, he has put them into work by making provisions for security, by also improving on our infrastructure. I'm so particular about the Lagos-Calabar coastal road, which to me makes sense to my people. But I will thank Mr. President also for making an attempt to improve and make more provisions on security. I would say, yes, this bill should be read the second time, and then while we go into the little tricky of this bill, because at the other stage, we now deal specific. But they also make a provision for the South-South development.
Senator, your time is off. Thank you. Senator Jewel, you have the floor. Senator Jewel Thomas has the floor.
House Natural District. Mr. President, I want to join my colleagues to appreciate the President for taking a bold step to restore and to secure and bring peace to our country. I also want to commend him for trying to rebuild prosperity for our people in 2025 budget. The 2024 year hasn't been very easy for our people. That's why I said I have to commend him for this bold step. However, the President has made up his mind on what he intends to do in this budget proposal in 2025. I want to say that a lot is expected from us in this chamber to make sure that every kobo that is being appropriated in this budget, in the 2025 budget, is spent, and our oversight functions should be carried out in such a way that the real benefits for the people of Nigeria is realized. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to speak.
Who have spoken already and commended the budget of the presentation of our President, the 2025 budget of restoration, securing peace, and rebuilding prosperity for Nigerians. I would particularly want to commend the idea that it intends to fix mostly security, power, and manufacturing. I think this will be a very good turnaround for our people, because the issues of power, security, and the lack of manufacturing to provide jobs for our young people and secure employment, creditable employment, has been a big issue throughout the 2024 that we have gone through. So I think this is very good and very ambitious. And I also want to commend the provision of funds for health. Even still, it is not enough. We have, from our calculation, maybe it's about 6-7%, but we really need to get much more than that, because we have an Abuja declaration that we signed to, that signs for 15% of our provision, 15% provision for health from our takings. And then I noticed that we have some funds for basic health provision, but I don't know whether that is actually 1% of the consolidated revenue, CRF, which is the provision. Because if it is not, then it should be much more than that. And also the provision for basic, for infrastructure and health, which is very commendable. In all, I want to say that we are impressed with what we have seen so far, and we believe that with enough robust oversight of our various committees to the NDAs, we should see a better performance in the coming year over this budget. And so I therefore want to say that I think we should approve the second reading of this bill for consideration by the respective committees I so submit. Thank you, Your Excellency, for giving me this opportunity.